All right, folks, here we are for another episode of Off the Grid. I wanted to welcome my next guest. She is an amazing multimedia artist, a poet, a rapper, a producer. More specifically, she's a storyteller intrigued with exploring the human condition through performance art and experimental avant garde theater. She weaves together poetry, music, and fashion to shift her audiences from observers to participants. Interactive. I love it. She calls New York home. She's part of the all female hip hop collective, the Anomolies. When I first heard her on Blacklisted in 1999, my jaw dropped. I don't know if y'all saw that meme where they get the stinky face. I got that when I heard her verses. Just amazing. And so I wanted to welcome the super talented human being, Helixx C, Armageddon. Thank you for doing the session. How are you?
Thank you. I'm doing really well. Excited to be here as well. So much, much, much appreciated.
Yeah, thanks. I hope you don't mind. I wanted to just kind of start with music and then we'll jump into the art that you're doing and then close with some lighthearted questions. Does that work?
Yeah, that works. And I just wanted to mention one thing.
Yeah.
So the Anomalies, back then, we were all female collective. Now we are a gender justice collective. So
Oh,
we no
nice.
longer use all female in our in the way we describe ourselves.
Yeah, thanks for the clarification. I know you guys started in 95, I believe. And then when did that shift move from all female to all gender?
Yeah, it was more recent years.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say it was more not, I mean, not from the 90s, but definitely
Mhm.
once we were in the 2000s, it started to shift.
Okay, good to know. Well, hey, I wanted to take it all back before we go into your storied resume. I wanted to hear from you what your first exposure to music was. What were your parents bumping back in the day?
My parents, 70s soul.
Yeah.
My parents bumped 70s soul. I grew up in a multi-generational household.
Hmm.
So my grandmother played country music. Um,
Oh, wow.
my grandfather played, uh, it wasn't 70s soul. I would say it was more so 50s music.
Yeah.
Um, my parents played 70s soul, and then I would say my uncles, they were playing everything. They were playing hip hop, they
Yep.
were playing and that was the earliest forms of hip hop and house music
Oh, man.
and rock. So I grew up kind of with surrounded by a ton of different music.
Yeah, so it sounds like it was through them that you got your first exposure to hip hop. I read that you were the eldest sibling in your family, and so I know normally you get it from the older siblings. So it sounds like you got it from all your older relatives. And did you introduce hip hop to your siblings, your younger siblings?
I did. I have a younger brother who was a performing artist for a while.
That's right.
He no longer performs, but he was, I'd say like mid 2000s, early 2000s. He was performing a lot as well. He performed under the name Logic.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
pre the Logic that is out now, he was ahead of his time.
Yeah, absolutely. And so what were some critical albums or just rappers in general that were very influential in you becoming Helixx C?
Yeah, Rakim.
Oh,
Rakim was big. Special Ed was big. Um, I would say Salt and Pepper was big for
yeah,
me. Um, just thinking MC Light, um,
yeah.
Native Tongues. Yeah, so many. I mean, a who's who of 90s hip hop. I mean, I listened to everything, and that was the beauty of coming of age in the 90s.
Yeah.
There was so much. There was so much out there. There was so much to hear. And, we had like underground radio that was happening at night. So I learned so much about what was out, staying up late to listen, to see, to tune your radio just right so you could try to hear like what wasn't on radio, but what was bumping in the streets,
Yeah.
during that window of time. So
Yeah. And who was I guess what was the catalyst for you to make that, you made that call like, hey, I'm gonna start trying to write raps or maybe poetry. What was that moment?
yeah,
Do you recall?
for me, I remember it was Nas. you know, hearing Nas, um, there was something about the way he told stories that connected to me, and also the Boogie Monsters.
Ah,
So
nice.
the Boogie Monsters, you know, I remember just, you know, recognize the thresholds of negative stress. And there was something about being able to emote how you were feeling
Yeah,
and to tell that story and then to connect to people that, you know, wherever you were being beamed out to, there was something about that syndication and something about feeling like you weren't alone. You know,
yeah,
so if you're stressing out somewhere and then you're listening to a song, or there was people under the stairs back then too, and
yeah,
you know, just the music spoke to me. And
yeah.
what I realized is I was always writing poetry. My mom's a poet,
Okay.
so you know, I had always she encouraged me to write emotions and feelings down. So it wasn't like it was separate from me. It was very much a part of me. But putting it to music, it was more so when I heard Nas. Yeah.
Yeah, and your storytelling game is off the chain, and we'll go into some of the videos and the lyrics that you write. And so I love how you took the angle. And so again, I mentioned the Anomalies formed in '95. How much time before that were you rapping already on your own, or was it did you just start in '95?
No, I was rhyming before that. I was part of a few different crews.
Okay.
I've been rhyming since I was, I guess, 13,
Oh, I
um,
believe it.
13, 14.
Yeah.
Um, but I started, my first crew, I'm lying, was before that. I guess it was like 11 or 12. I started writing poetry probably around 9. And then 11 or 12 was, I think, my first group, was called Trauma.
Ah,
And
cool.
and it was 3 of us. And then after that, I was part of a group called Alter Ego. And
Okay.
then after that, I became part of the Anomalies. So it was different groups leading up to the Anomalies, but the Anomalies was when I felt like I was like a, I guess, as professional as one can be when they're 13, 14, 15 years
Yeah.
old. But at that time, I was like, I want to do this. I want to perform. We're going to perform. We were going to Washington Square Park, which was where a lot of MCs would
Okay.
cipher. So we would in New York City and Manhattan. So we would go there,
Yeah.
have ciphers. We started getting shows. So at that point, when I joined the Anomalies, was when I started feeling like I was actually part of hip hop culture,
Yeah.
a contributing member of hip hop culture.
Yeah, and they said you were a co-founder of the Anomaly. So was this an idea that you came up with pre, Tyra, or Invincible? Who did it start with?
Yeah, so oh God, it was so many. It's interesting because Tara was definitely there.
Yep.
Cotton Candy
Yeah.
was definitely there. Um, Pre was definitely there. Pre came a little bit later. I'm actually in Pre studio right now,
Oh, dope.
in her art studio.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so Pre came a little bit later. Um, but we just got together and we were saying, you know, we keep showing up at these events and
Okay.
we don't see anyone else that, you know, it's like the amount of people at the time, female identifying people at the time, were there wasn't many showing up
Yeah.
at the event. So we kept seeing each other every time we would go. And then it's
Yeah.
like, oh, I saw you at the Roots event. Oh, I saw you at the Fifth Platoon event.
Yeah.
Oh, I saw you, you know, we were doing that. And then after a while, we started asking each other, like, do you do anything? And someone would be like, I DJ. And someone else be like, oh, you know, I've been learning to be girl.
Yeah.
Someone else would be like, I do graffiti. So then it was like, wait a minute, like we're all doing these things, like we should team up
Yeah.
and see what we can make together. So that was kind of the birth of it, where we
Yeah.
just all started seeing each other repeatedly, and then we're like, we should team up.
So is Cotton Candy and Invincible, are they from New York originally, or because I know she's on
Yeah,
the West Coast, right?
she's
And
on the West Coast. Yeah, Candace is on the West Coast now. Um, Invincible was from
Detroit.
Detroit. Is
That's
from
right.
Detroit. Yeah. So originally, well, I'm originally from Queens. Candace was from Queens. Pre's
Ah,
from Queens
okay.
originally, and Farrah's from Manhattan.
Okay.
Invincible is from Detroit. I mean, the Anomalies was way bigger than our core members before
I
when we first started, and it was just people from all over were part of us during that window of time.
Yeah.
But once we whittled down to just, the core members,
Yeah.
that's pretty much where everybody is from.
And I gotta say that the group name is probably one of the best I've ever heard. Who came up with the Anomalies? What's the background behind that?
It's funny. I can't even remember.
Oh man.
I can't even remember how we came
God.
about our name. I'm looking
Yeah.
at Pre. Do you remember how we came up with the Anomalies name?
Yeah.
um, so yeah, well, I don't remember.
Know how it was we were there weren't anything out there like out there like that based on how we were setting up. So
Can you hear Pre?
Slightly. She should just jump on with you, huh?
Oh, just come speaking. 1 second. Let me take the headphones out.
Oh my God. Oh, great. Great to have Free join us. That's awesome. Well, hey, super props to the wishing well that you built for Museum of My Heart. Super cool.
all right.
Yeah.
So you were she didn't Pre didn't hear the question.
Yeah, that was always something I've been interested in, is how the group name Anomalies came to life. How did it come to fruition? It's just an amazing group name. One of those when you hear it, you're like, I wish I came up with that. And so I was curious what the story was.
Well, I came in later, but how I registered it, how it was explained to me was that it was basically there is nothing that was really like us at that time as far as the collective, because it wasn't just the 5 core members. We had chapters in different
Yep.
states, had a number like 100, like we had a number of women who were involved in Anomalies in the beginning, and then it became Anomolies, which because we were basically spitting facts in our own individual ways. We all style our own ways of doing things and our own ways of speaking our truth and speaking what we believe in, what we believe in.
Yeah.
And that's how that all came into play. Well, that's how it registered with me.
I love that. Yeah, I love that. I grew up in Japan. I didn't move to Cali until 97, and I just once I found out about the Anomalies, and then I heard y'all stuff, I just tried to find everything I could on all the music that you guys did. And it was so hard to get. Internet was just starting to boom, so it was like by word of mouth or what you can get through Fat Beats. So it was I just was a big fan as soon as I heard you guys' stuff. So that's awesome. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
You tell them how to put him. Okay. All right. All right.
Oh, that was great. And so did you guys actually have, so what I wasn't able to locate at the start was just hard albums. Did you guys put out like an Anomalies album? I've always just found like a collection of singles.
No.
So Anomalies is a collective of individual artists. We never put out an Anomalies album per se, but we did put out a lot of collective materials.
Yeah.
So like with music on other people's things, collective connections with other labels and stuff like that. Sometimes it was all of us, sometimes it was 2 of us. So it was like this mixture.
And I was so happy that Helixx had you guys as a team on the Hold the Line song on your 2022 album. That was great. Yeah, so it must be harder these days as we're older and just everybody's got a lot of stuff going on to get the crew together. How hard is that?
It is very hard, but we make time. I mean, we have a WhatsApp. We catch up on WhatsApp collectively,
Nice.
which is awesome. I'm always over here at Pre's art studio.
I'm about to head out. Great. Is this live?
It will be.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
All right, see you. Yeah, I come over here to create art at her art studio, and we keep up via WhatsApp as a collective.
Yeah.
We keep up as on WhatsApp and stay in each other's lives in that regard.
I love that.
Yeah, so there's not like a super silent window with us. We're over the years we've always found ways to stay connected.
That's fantastic. And I know the story behind your name. And at first, before I didn't know too much about you, I was like, man, how cool would it be if Helixx was her first name? But I mean, through the years, I figured it out. But I would love to hear the story from you on how you got your name, the Helixx C, and the Armageddon. It's a great story.
So when I was my first MC name was actually Chant the Metaphysical. So
Oh, wow. Holy cow.
so that was MC name. And then I remember having a conversation with someone that was like, this was, I feel like we went to high school together, and they were like, yeah, what about Helixx? Like, because I was trying to think of like what to graduate from, because I was like, I don't want to go by Chant the Metaphysical anymore.
Yeah.
I want it a bit broader. And this was like, again, I've had this name since I was 14, so 15. So it's been a long time. So this was like a 13-year-old me. Like, hey, somewhere in that window of time between 13 and 15, I decided I needed a new name. And so he had mentioned to me, what about the DNA? Because that's part of everybody. And I was like, yeah, I like that. And then I was like, well, I can't just be Helixx by myself, because he was like Helixx. And I was like, I'm gonna say Helixx instead of Helixx. So,
Yep.
now Helixx. And then I was like, but back then, and maybe it's still a thing today, I haven't heard it, but back then you had to like you would battle for your name. So essentially, if someone else had your name
Yeah.
and people like they're better than you, then you had to give up your name. So I was like, I don't want to ever give up my name. So I need a first name, middle initial, and a last name. So then I was thinking about it, and I was like, all right, I just want an initial. I don't want an actual middle name. So C is the Roman numeral for 100, and Armageddon for warlike times. So it was like, for me, it was infinitely flowing 100% during warlike times. And
Ah,
that name has stood the test of time, because
yeah.
here we are, 2024, and I've had that again since somewhere between 13 years old and 15 years old is when I got that name. So
Wow. And it sounds good just as you say it. But when I learned the story behind it, I was like, oh man, just a million more times impressed on how it came together. So yeah, absolutely. And so that's another thing too. Your style is, I think you, and I do this when I write raps too, where like you hug the beat really well, like you write it. And so I wondered, do you like to write without a beat, or are you always writing on a beat?
I always write on a beat. And sometimes, I mean, the times that I've written without one, then I've
Yeah.
come back to a beat and then have like, I call it retrofitting, like
Yeah, yeah.
retrofitted it on, but I prefer to write with,
Yeah, yeah. It's
yeah,
very apparent, and it sounds really good. And so, did you dabble in any other element of hip hop? I know you produced too a little bit as well. You produce music, but did you try anything else? Were you a e-girl, or did you do a little bit of graffiti?
I did, I never, so I did start down a path of graffiti, but I never did anything like noteworthy. It was just I had a sketchbook that I would sketch in. So I can't claim that, but I was interested in graffiti. And today, till this day, I still am. Like, I have great respect for graffiti writers. Have been known to show up to a lot of graffiti shows just because I'm incredibly inspired
Yeah,
by graffiti artists. And, they make the wall speak. So it's like there's something that's so raw about that. So it
yeah,
inspires my work, graffiti.
yeah. I saw in a number of years ago, you were doing a talk, and you talked about how hip hop continues to evolve, as we all know, from golden era to where we're at today. And so I love you mentioned that you kind of look at your relationship with hip hop as a growing relationship. You understand there's going to be change, transition. You know that sometimes you're going to love it, hate it, you can't live without it, or why you're still doing it. And so I'm interested. What's your current take on the hip hop scene? Is that how you still feel, or how are you enjoying the new stuff?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's a great question. I mean, I love music in general,
Mhm.
and I do feel like like hip hop also serves as a diary of what's happening at a particular
Oh,
point in time. So it does feel like a diary entry when I listen to the music nowadays. Um, I would say my relationship to it has expanded, because as a lyricist, lyricism kind of flows through all that I do.
yeah,
Even when I'm doing things that are more experimental or sit
yep,
in an experimental space fully, it's all driven by hip hop,
yeah,
So it's kind of like when I see and experience the folks that are coming up now, and even just the time in between the start of Anomalies all the way to now, and since we just came through 50 years of hip hop and everything, um, I just see it kind of being this living thing. I don't think hip hop is a stationary
yeah,
like thing. I think it is living, breathing, evolving, moving, shaping, shifting. You know what I'm saying? Like
yeah,
it's shaped, but then it's also spread out in so many different ways, as a culture, as a lifestyle. So yeah, I just see it as kind of like I see it as ever expanding, but that's what universes do, right? So it's like
sure,
things expand and contract and expand and contract. So I appreciate its growth. I
yeah,
can say I do miss well, let me preface this part. So I'm going to say I miss the way it was in the 90s because everything coexisted.
yep,
The beauty of today is everything is coexisting again, but in a different kind of way, right? So
sure,
before it was everything existed and was all being pushed at the same time. So at that time, you would hear Tribe Called Quest, you would hear, NWA, you would hear all of it happening at the same time. Now it's happening all at the same time too, but it's
I,
very niche, right? So you can find whatever your interest is in hip hop right now, tuning into someone's specific YouTube channel or tuning into someone's TikTok or, you know what I'm saying? Like it all exists again today without the boundaries. The only thing is the promotion
sure.
machine is different from the 90s. So
Ah, good point.
yeah, so yeah, I guess that's the expansion of it I
Yeah,
appreciate. Also appreciate that you can find everything again.
yeah.
It's just that promotion vehicle and the industry aspect of it has always been a shady aesthetic.
Yeah, and that's a great point. The promotion aspect. I mean, you grew up in a time where internet was non-existent, and you had to go to shows just to get your name out. You were flyering and passing out demos, and so what was that like, especially just growing up in New York? That I always find New York and LA some of the toughest scenes to come up as an MC in general. And what was it tough? Was it even tougher because you were a female? Or what was your experience like? Was it welcoming?
I think back then it was more fun. I
Okay.
mean, that's
Okay. All
it's
right.
more the thing about youth as well. Like you don't care. So
Yeah.
get on the trains, we'd have a stack of flyers, our show flyers with us, and then we just thought people looked cool and we'd be like, here's a flyer, come to our show tonight.
Yeah.
We're in there now. And then what would happen is people would actually show up. So it was,
That's
that
cool.
we met on the trains or that we just randomly handed a flyer to in a bodega or whatever. So
Awesome.
yeah, so it was more fun and more like you surprising when people would show up,
Yeah.
like much anybody, but just random people that you didn't even know, but just were like, here, this would be cool. You look cool. Show up later, and then they would actually show up
Yeah.
and it would be sometimes that person became like a friend forever. You know what I'm
Oh, that's
saying?
great.
It's that kind of thing. Those are those stories. For me, the New York stories that I have from back then, where I just randomly got a flyer, showed up somewhere, and was like, "This is amazing. I need to keep showing up." And
Yeah.
and you become a part of, that community. So yeah, I would say that I love that back then. And not to say that it can't happen today, but I feel like
Yeah.
we're a bit more guarded, in the sense of no one wants to take a flyer nowadays, or you know what
Sure.
I'm it's like it's different.
Yeah, yeah, that was the only way to find out or learn about music was going to those shows. So that's amazing. You're right. It was a good time for music and just life in general. That's awesome. And so And what motivates you to do music? I mean, you've been in the game for almost 30 years in terms of like writing, and so like how do you still do it? I know you're very progressive, so I like that, and you take a new approach. But what motivates you to still do it and make?
Yeah, what motivates me is that I'm driven by not only the story, but it's like my form of therapy, you
Yeah.
know. I think everybody feels differently about their motivations to write. But what I realized is when I don't write, I there's something about the implosion that happens within. So for me, I always have to tell these stories, and sometimes the stories take different forms, but there's always a core to it. So there's always like poetry. Poetry is, I think, the common thread through it all.
Okay.
It's always there. But I can't just not do it. And
Yeah.
I realized that because there was a long period of time. Um, I had a few years ago, I went through like a near-death experience, and
Oh,
it was a period of like not doing music at all. And what had helped me recover was music therapy. So I had went, to music therapy, and that is what healed me. And after that, I was like, I can't, this is it for me. From here to the end, regardless if one person listens to the music or zero people listen to the music, I have to do this. So, and how I manage that need is through production, through
yeah.
producing things, through hip hop stuff, through writing music and songs, writing poems that stand alone, um, creating these art installations that I do now.
Yeah.
It takes all different forms, but the heart of it is still the storytelling and the
Yeah.
need to implode.
Yeah. Yeah. I love how you've evolved as a person and just the things that you do. And so, as I mentioned, I had first learned about your music in '99 when the Blacklisted single came out. And so were you primarily, did you want to be a battle MC when you first started? Or was that just a style of New York hip hop at the time?
I would say it was the style of New York hip hop at the time. But at the same time, that was part of the culture. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't consider myself to be a battle MC,
Okay.
although like early on before battle culture became what we know as battle culture today. Before
Yep.
that, way before that, when people were just doing ciphers, I ciphered and would have to go toe to toe here and there, but it was never really like it was something that was exciting,
Yeah.
but for me, it was always like if you listen to the different things that I've written, I'm always just trying to harness, like, um, excavate my traumas and
Yeah.
the things weigh heavy on me are the things I usually want to talk about, and that's not when you're um thinking about that, it takes a different form, or it puts you on a
Sure.
different writing.
Yeah. Can you talk about how that record came together? I mean, that record
Yeah.
went worldwide. Oh,
Jice won and Crash. So Jice and Crash were from the Arsonist. Me and Jice is one of my best friends.
oh wow.
Crash is a wonderful person and someone that I've had a great friendship relationship with across time. Um, has always been in my corner as a producer, as a musician, just encouraging me to, keep going. And back then, we were like, we need to collaborate. So Jice and I did Blacklisted. And I was, just like, again, teenage angst. I was
Oh,
angry about things at that time. And that was that expectation of just needing to talk about all the things that were aggravating me. So,
wow.
and it it was the right platform, for it. So we got together, we wrote that, and again, this is like 30 years of cobwebs. So I
Yeah. Yeah. I
like I'm just realizing I'm like, dag, I gotta go back and read through my diaries from back then.
I love it.
Just like top of mind again. But yeah, so we wrote, we went into the studio. I don't remember if we wrote the hook in the studio or if we wrote it in advance, merged during the studio session that we had. But I know after Crash and Jice see this, they're gonna be like, what were you talking about? This is how it happened.
Yeah.
So I love you both, and I'm sorry if my brain, the 30 years of cobwebs are, but I feel like we wrote the hook in there.
Yeah.
And we wrote our second verses in there, if I remember correctly. So we both wrote our first verses, and I think the second verses came about in the studio.
Yeah.
But it definitely was raw. At the
Yeah.
time, was, we were performing all over the place. Like arsonists were,
Yep.
so there was something about the timing and just that, collaboration was just amazing.
Yeah, it was just from everything, from the sample to the beginning. If we all reacted the same way, we'd be predictable, blacklisted. And then the hook, I don't want to be an MC. Why? The definition's all fucked up. Too many rumors stay around me. And then it's just us against the industry. And so I felt maybe that was like an anti-industry song. Were you just on your independent tip at the time?
We absolutely were,
Yeah.
definitely. But also, each of us had our own fair share of run-ins with folks that,
Right.
you know, um, wanted to change or shape where we were coming from. And there
Yeah.
was some that rawness of the time. And I think that was, what a lot of people connected to was the rawness of it,
Yeah.
because we were being approached by different record labels all the time.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
that
I
when
bet.
and some of them wanted to change our names, or some of it, it was just like, let's change your name, or
Yeah.
let's change this name, or we see you doing this or that. But at the end of the day, if you came from that community of, artists, there was an integrity piece that
Yeah.
was huge. And I'm happy that back then we didn't like sell our souls,
Yeah.
just to be part of a wave that wasn't the wave we were trying to be on. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and I mean everybody killed the song. I did want to point out some choice lyrics that I had that I love every time I listen to that song, and I had to jog back my memory too, and just that your wordplay like a fiend's dream, stimulating me, transmitting through your bloodstream. But before you detox, I'll make your knees drop, release the G shock. Oh man! And then your second verse, too many rumors spread like tumors through the course of the reaction, motor mouth. Just every time I hear your verses on that thing, I just go bananas. Just oh, it's great. And the hook, I imagine performing it live just must have been nuts. Yeah, that's a crowd rocker for sure.
Always sing along.
Yeah,
It was definitely, it was amazing. It was amazing time to be alive, and it
yeah,
was an amazing way to spend our youth,
yeah,
to actually do that time period of music. I think it's hard to explain. Like even when I
sure.
try to my son, I'm like, it just, was just a different energy,
Does he like
just,
rap music or no?
yeah, he does. He
Okay.
does.
Oh,
He-
and yeah. Well, what's his take on just knowing that his mom did all these amazing things? Is it surreal to him or just
he's
yeah,
so old.
yeah, yeah? I bet.
He just graduated from college.
Yeah,
He appreciates, everything that I do. He, it's funny because when he's around me,
yeah.
I would say that he's like not grumpy, but he's kind of like, yeah, whatever. But when I hear him talk about me to other people,
You're
like
right.
I'm like, oh, he actually
Mom's cool.
cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's come to a lot of shows. He's traveled the world with me,
Yeah.
because I was a single mom, so he was never left at home when I had to travel. Um, and he has a great respect for music. He produces himself.
Oh, crazy.
Produces himself. He does of um of cars, and he just started doing videography stuff. So he's also an artist himself.
Yeah. Super cool.
Yeah, he just I'm never cool until I'm not in the room with an earshot of him. Then he's talking to me about someone, talking to someone else, and he's like, "Yeah, my
Yeah.
mom did."
par for the course for sure with every parent and child. And so we talked about this too. It's just you guys have a bunch of singles that are all over the internet. And so I'm glad that you had put them all together on your SoundCloud, because some of those I was like, oh man, I wish I could hear them again. And some of them were like Estrogen, the female posse track, holy cow. And then just Perfectionist was another track I used to listen to back in the day that you did with Invincible. And I just again I just want to credit you again for your storytelling ability. So that makes so much sense that you said that Nas was very inspirational to you in becoming an MC. And so again, your lyrics are very well thought out. Perfectionist, you want more of the rare commodity, the quality. It's what it's got to be. And my philosophy is much farther than what your odds could be. Oh man, just every time you're one of those that every time I hear your verses, I'm like, ah, shit, it's just amazing. And so, how long does it take you to write your verses? Does it depend, or just
Yeah, it depends. It's interesting because I have to be in that window, right? So for everyone waiting on a verse from me who is super cranky with me, I love you all too. Um, because folks are gonna be like, "You stand up there, she lying." But sometimes I can write same day, So sometimes it's the same moment I get a track, then
yeah,
and I'm able to put something, right within a 24-hour window.
yeah,
Sometimes it's longer, but it depends on what is happening in my life. So we just
yeah.
did I launched my first museum last weekend. So on the lead up to that, my brain was totally fragmented. So as I'm like I'm writing for multiple projects right now. I have like 4 different albums that I'm writing against. And
Wow.
I just with museum mode. So I'm like museum, like because I'm project managing this big launch of a museum. So it was hard for me to, whenever you get time and you're just having those quiet moments, during those quiet moments, I'm like meditating. I'm not writing. I'm just like, I just got to meditate right now and just kind of be, because I get decision fatigue. So when I'm in decision fatigue mode, then I'm going to obsess about whatever I'm writing. I'm like, oh, this line sucks. Let me, let it marinate. And I'll come back to it a week later. I'm like, oh, that line wasn't that bad. So sometimes it's super fast. Like there are people that will co-sign that I've written same day or within a 24-hour window I sent verses across. There are other people that'll be like, it's 6 months, it's a year later, I'm still waiting. And it's really just, how it's like
Depends.
mood the moment and what else is happening at that time. Because I try to write from a place of like where I'm like emotionally centered so that I'm able to write in a way where it transmutes or
Yeah,
where it kind of lines up in a way that feels right.
yeah.
So yeah, I would say people will, you know, again, different artists that I've worked with will be like, yeah, it was 24 hours later. Others will be like, I'm still waiting.
And I just came up with this as I was listening to you talk, and just there isn't a bad Helixx verse on the internet at all amazing. And so the way that you inflect some of your rhymes to your wordplay, the content, I mean it's Eminem like for real, like just the way that you structure everything, and just the delivery too, it's quite unique too as well. So and I think you displayed that like really big time in your 20 album House of Helixx. Like I was as a fan just like, holy cow, she got an album coming out. Like let's get it. And so I was super excited to get my copy, and well done. And what motivated you after all these years to say that I'm gonna put an album together, a whole album?
Yes, well, Jice has been in my ear for a long time about just doing it, and he bridged the connection to ID. And ID, who is runs Creative Juice's music, but also produced all the songs on the album under the name Shanty Gallows. Jice bridged that connection, and then ID and I just, locked in. He sent me the tracks, and that's why I said he's someone that if you were to see our first recording session, I recorded like the whole album in one day. Like it was like 11, I think I did 11 songs or 13 songs. the same day.
Wow.
Yeah, I just went in and it was like, I feel like an 8-hour session and we knocked out the whole thing. But then again, like what people will tell you about me is that I was then like, oh, like let's do some more. Like I'm not sure if this is it. But most of the most of the songs are the ones that were on the album. You know, I
Okay.
just went in, just did it. And it was he and I have a great vibe together. So it was
Yeah.
just in the moment that we locked in, we just, you know, got it done. So and
Yeah.
then spent refining it and then building the narratives around it and all the skits and everything.
Yeah. Where did the title come from? House of Helixx.
House of Helixx came from, it's also the name of my website. So,
Yep.
but what was the name of my website? It was just the idea that, you know, people have different, like if you think of the brain as a house, that's kind of meaning behind it. If you walk into a fun house, there's different rooms. Like some have something that scares you, some have something that makes you laugh, some have some things that leave you thoughtful. You know, each of those rooms holds something different. It's the idea of House of Helix, but also because of the fashion part, because I also
Yeah.
do
Ah.
like that. So it's part, you know, which multiple meanings. I'm into things that have multiple meanings, but just the idea of you know, different rooms in a house of a person,
Yeah.
and then, you know, a house as in a fashion house, you know,
Yeah.
where it's go in and look around and there's different things that you can put on. And
Yeah.
music is when you're trying to
Ooh.
get ready, phones on, and then you immerse yourself in that soundscape to get ready for the day. My
Yeah.
music is kind of heavy, and I recognize that. It's like it has a weight to it.
Yep.
You know that it's the as a storyteller, and I look at my albums like audiobooks. So it's the kind of thing where I don't know, you have to be in a specific state of mind, I think, when you take that in, because it's a lot to process.
Yeah. I would say too, specifically the Warrior song was a heavy song. And so I didn't know if that was like, true life experience or if you were just writing a story, but holy cow, like that song was amazing, but hard to listen to also, right? Like it
Mm.
was well done. Holy cow.
Thank
Yeah.
you. That song was definitely a true story.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
challenging household. And
Yeah.
yeah, and but it, you know, again, the idea of music for me is kind of pulling out those things that
Right.
weigh on your. So that's why I said it's a therapeutic thing because I'm not
Yeah.
that way on my heart or just on me in general. I'm sharing them.
Yes.
Yeah, that when you share stuff, you'll find other people who went through the same thing. Like when I
Yeah.
started doing that, people come up to me after and will be like, "Oh my God, I went through that when I was a kid," and
Yep.
you know, want me right there and how. And then we'd have these conversations around it that had so much meaning for me as well, because I'm like, you feel alone when you're going through a thing, but then when you
Yeah.
start sharing, you realize you're not alone.
That's
Other
right.
people,
Right.
you know.
Yeah. And I mean, just can't, that's what I love about MCs who just talk experience, right? Just real life things. So in the song, you can feel it much more too, as well. And you're like, oh, this song, you're like I knew, I just had asked you as well. It's like I felt it was a real story, and just that whole album in general. And I think that I can't remember. It's been a number of years, but was the lead song James Baldwin? Or was it Roller Coaster? I can't remember now, but
Single was Roller Coaster, but the lead song, I think we did open the album with James Baldwin.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great too, as well. It just, I'm sure, he's got, famous obviously for his essay novels and plays and poems, and then big actor in the civil rights movement and stuff. And so, thought very appropriate in just the album that you did. And I love the NPR Tiny Desk submission that you did to that song. Oh man, jeez, and so that's what I want to credit you to is the video series that you did for that album with Ethan Minsker. It was so dope. Just like the costumes, the some of the effects, and just the laser beam shooting all over. It was crazy. What motivated you to do the videos?
So Ethan and I did a we did an artist residency, a collaborative artist residency on Governor's Island out here. Um, and Governor's Island was dope. I was going through like on the lead up to that, I was just going through kind of a you know, I'm feeling not great about art and not great about music. I
Yeah.
had this, you know, like leading up to that because that's what happens. All right, this is what I'm going to say, and maybe some of the artists that are viewing this will have the same thing. After you do something, so again, working on the album, getting it, you know, exactly where you need it to get everything. Like you're in that mode of like, I'm working on this, I'm doing this or whatever. And
Yeah.
then after it's done and everything stops, then you're just there. So there's something that happens, and it happens to me with big shows too. Like if you're
Okay.
doing like a residency or something where you're performing every day for like 2 weeks and then it all just stops.
Yeah.
There's something about that where I just feel sad, you
Oh,
know? So
sure.
I've always fallen in love with the process, the building process. Like I'm a studio person. Like I love being in the studio and I love seeing that thing come to life. But then when it's done, I'm like, man, now I'm
Oh, yeah. It's over. Oh, yeah.
over, right?
Yeah.
So we had did all the album stuff. Like we were in the studio like every single few times a week, just getting everything done. And then it all was just all right, now we move into the marketing, promotion, and this and that. And then
Yeah.
I'm just like, now I'm sad because the creative part of it, like now it's
Yeah.
the bit,
That's
right? So
right.
Ethan was just like, all right, he was like, let's apply for this art residency and see what happens. So we applied, we wound up winning it, which was amazing.
Woo.
We island and we just built stuff. So we were building props. I built the costumes. He built the
Yep.
mask. And then we were like, well, let's use Governor's Island as the backdrop and let's do an art film.
Oh,
So
God.
and then he was like, well, we can slice and dice this art film up and let's just not say any words. Let's just have your music be the film. So we wound up doing that. So what came out of that was a 17-minute art film that
Yeah.
we
Oh,
yeah, and into the different music videos that you
I,
saw.
oh my gosh.
So it's amazing. The art film won awards and all types of stuff. So we had a really great run with that. And I continue to work with Ethan today, but it was born out of a artist residency that we were doing, and then it turned into a whole other thing. So
Yeah, the first one I saw was the Cupid and his Broken Arrows, and that was another cool song on your album. And just again, I love like the choice of outfits and the mask were super cool. And I was like, man, this is so awesome. And then I saw the roller coaster video. I was like, this is even double more. This is like way better than just like this. It started getting crazier, and just like the cut and the editing was just it was just man, it was awesome. And so I really enjoyed it. And yeah, I just wanted to give you some props for that. And again, roller coaster was dope. I just love the lyrics, highs and lows. Truth be told, watch the pendulum swing. Where it lands, I can only hope the pressure won't sting. I'm secure even with depression clamped on my wings. Woo! Learn to fly, comprise, look for lessons and things. Shadows whisper as I walk. They can't be seen to the eye. Oh man, woo, amazing.
and Jice he was one of the masked characters in the
Oh,
video.
yeah, no kidding. Oh, that's great.
ID was in it too.
Yeah, hey, so do you have them displayed in your studio, or I hope you kept those masks. Those are so cool.
Well, the masks are Ethan's masks and we bring them out all anytime there's an opportunity to. So they were in the pop-up museum of my heart that we just did. We had a
Yeah,
station.
okay. I thought they were. I wasn't sure. Yeah.
Yeah, we had a station where people could try on the masks and see like we had the 17-minute film playing in there so people could watch it and try on the mask and take pictures and things.
Yeah. Is the full 17-minute film, is that online? I'd love to watch it like in entirety. I've just seen the videos.
Yeah, it's online. I believe it's on, I want to say Tubi. I think it might be on Amazon too, but when after this, I'll send you the link so you have it.
Oh,
But
fantastic.
where it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I hope it's for sale. I'd love to purchase that and just have it. It's just really well done. Just the effects too. Did Ethan do all the laser beam shooting now? Man,
Everything.
he's dope.
Yeah.
He's
He's
really
a good,
dope. Before I close on the album, I just wanted I wanted to identify some of my favorite songs from the album, just to let you know they really hit hard. For me, my favorite song from that album was the Circus Puppets and Parables. Just oh man, just talking about you being a puppet, your perspective. Nice to meet you all. First name is Helixx. Here to interview for the job posted on Craigslist, and the way that you closed the song, I was like, ooh, the job description said the theater's hiring a puppet for its circus. And I'm like, wow, I think I found my purpose. And then your ending, there is no other choice. This job was built for me. I was like, ooh, yeah. Yes, Miss Haley. That was really cool. Like that's my favorite song on the album.
That
Um,
makes me really
yeah, yeah. That one needs a video, I think, but but super cool. And so I mentioned too, Warrior was another one of my favorite songs too, and it was just the hook was just man, just very emotional and just yeah, it was very yeah easy to connect with the story, super deep song. I enjoyed that. Then I was very happy, as I mentioned in the beginning of the interview, that Hold the Line was there too, and that you got a posse cut too. It's just great to hear that you guys, after all these years, are family. So that's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, there's going to be a follow-up. That's one of the albums that's nearly done.
Okay,
There's songs that I have House of Helix 2 that'll be out. There's another Anomalies cut on there, which is exciting. So, yeah, and I
that's
have
it.
some features, a couple of really awesome features that I think people will be excited about as well.
Oh, I can't wait. On that track, was that Cotton Candy scratching it? I assume it was her, right? Okay, that's good. That was good to know. Wow, the whole crew's on there. That's awesome. Yeah, I can't wait for number two. What do you are you able to share potential release date or
No, not yet.
yeah,
We have just a few songs left, but I
okay.
have multiple releases happening at the same time.
I see.
So I'm also as an independent artist, as many of the independent artists know, from a release perspective, you want to make sure you can give each one the proper amount of
Yeah, breathing
head.
space. Yeah.
So I have to figure it out. We have the Museum of My Heart album that is nearly done as well, and that one's
Yep.
all same different angle. Um, then House of Helix 2 I have that's coming out. That's with ID. I have the Ouroboros, which is on the
Oh my
docket. That's with Crash. So
yeah.
it's
Oh, exciting.
pipeline that are, waiting. And yeah, those are the three that are most pressing on my mind right now to like get completed. So
Yeah, are they all going to come to life in physical form? Will it be in I hope
yeah,
so. Yeah.
I have to see because again, it's we for House of Helix Part 1 we did CDs.
Yep.
For House of Helix Part 2, I'm not sure if we would do CDs or vinyl, and for each of them, I'm not sure if we would do CDs or vinyl.
Woo.
Um,
Yeah.
some other, in some other kind of way, because I'm open to the weird stuff. So it's
Yeah.
like, let's get weird. How can we release this and
Yeah.
different ways to release things? So yeah,
Yeah.
we'll see. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, I love it. And so with that, I want to transition into the work that you do in your art field. And so you mentioned Museum of My Heart, which was your first pop-up museum that opened over a Friday to Sunday weekend, which just happened end of June, right? At Culture Lab in Queens, New York. Congratulations. I saw the snippet of all the cool installation pieces that were there. Super cool. But hey, do you mind just talking to us about what the concept was and what you were trying to achieve out of that weekend?
Yeah, so essentially I created a public participatory art museum,
Yeah.
um, where I had different, so my artist friends, so Ethan contributed, Free the Honey Dark contributed, Jose Carmona contributed, Cynthia Ruse contributed, as sculpturists. So they created these really amazing sculptures that we had. And then what happened was my new album was playing in the background. So it's unreleased, but it was playing as the backdrop of the Museum of My Heart. And the album is also named Museum of My Heart. And then on the lead up to the museum opening, we had um, people contributing their thoughts on love, desire, heartbreak, and healing.
Yep.
And then they had different stations that they could participate in, where they could contribute to the museum on site with love, their thoughts on love, desire, heartbreak, and healing. So we had a
That's
wishing
great.
well. We had hundreds of people showing up each day.
Yeah.
Just it was an amazing turnout. what people submitted was amazing, really like a home run in all regards. And now we're going
Yeah.
to do that's tied to it in November. And that is another Museum of My Heart related event. And this one is also public participatory, but it's going to be even bigger. So,
Yeah.
and it's not going to be in the museum format, but more like a banquet.
Oh, fantastic.
So you're receiving art across 4 courses. And
Yeah.
so we're excited about that. That's more experimental theater.
Yeah.
The way it connects, the way everything connects is that so again, what drives the museum is the public thoughts on how they're feeling right now. Because for
Yeah.
me, I think what I realize when I speak to people is people are really not connecting. They're connecting kind of in their bubbles. Social media creates some connection, but a lot of people are lonely.
Yeah.
And it's like they're sitting there on their phones or on their computers, but they're not in spaces together, kind of communicating together or participating in something. So what a lot of people were saying as they were coming up to us during the museum experience was that, they were so happy to have a place to talk about these things and to be able to share these things. So it was, for me, again, that unburdening or that releasing from the heart space was the intention of
Yeah.
creating come and unburden themselves and maybe leave feeling a little lighter than they felt when they came in.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I have to honestly say I've never been a part of an interactive art experience. And so the wishing well, which is awesome that pre-built, and but yeah, the experience where you get to write your wish and throw it in the well. And so I usually do that when I go to like temples and stuff. And so I think you're right, where you get to like just kind of write that burden that's on your mind, and you feel some kind of release. And so I was really fascinated with that. And so I've got to look for more opportunities to go see these interactive types. Like, I wish y'all were closer. I need to bring y'all to Hawaii so I can check it out. But and
Never
that
know.
was really cool.
We might end up there because people were so interested in it. I mean,
Yeah.
the different stations we had a confession booth, so people were able to just confess different things that they were feeling. We had the wishing well. We had just whatever your thoughts are that you just want to share. So post-it note stations where people could just, write.
Yeah.
Had people going, there was a cartoon artist, it was Pre-Sun actually. He's a cartoon artist. So people would go,
Wow.
yeah, and tell him how they were feeling, and then tell him what their favorite pet was or their spirit animal, like as
Yeah.
your aura,
That is cool.
art to walk away with. We had Castles in the Sky, which is name of one of the songs.
Yeah.
And those were these huge paper mache buildings, like 10 feet buildings that Ethan created, where you could like look inside of the windows
Ah,
and see, and they were lit up, and it was just magical. And then we had Cynthia, who created a roller coaster. And the roller coaster, if you followed the lines of the roller coaster, you were able to see all the different words, like the heart. So,
that's
and the
cool.
way it ended was almost like a phoenix rising, because there was all these like paper birds that were. So it was not only was it a space to reflect, but it was also a space to be and just release.
Yeah. Yeah, your curation of just everything was great. And I love the way that you assemble your outfits too. Both the black dress that you wore was super cool. And yeah, I wasn't sure if the masks were from the videos, but thank you for confirming. And just the wolf mask and the red dress. I love everything about it. Ali. That would have been super awesome to attend. Lucky for those who got to experience that. And so you hinted that during that exhibit you played the album that you sang on and co-produced, and that was like unlike anything I heard from Helixx ever. And I love it, just the rock and roll sound. And then you had Wishing Well, which had that '80s vibe, and man, I was really impressed. And so, you just tell me just what motivated you to do something out of the box like that.
Yeah, so again, I'm like an all-terrain vehicle when it comes to music.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah,
I'm a storyteller, so for me, it's like what medium feels the best to tell the story. And in telling the particular stories that I tell in the Museum of My Heart, it felt like singing was the way to tell it. And So I originally wrote the songs. I composed the songs, and then I went to my friend Mark Roser, who is he's many things. He's a singer, songwriter, producer, has had his own successful albums out there.
Yeah.
He did the entry music for one of the WWE stars.
Oh, super cool.
It's really awesome. But he also is a touring member of the Jesus and Mary Chain rock and roll band.
Oh,
And they're awesome. So, and he's awesome. So he's a
cool.
bass player. So working with him was something that I wanted to do. And then
Okay.
this project, after I wrote it and composed it, I was like, I need some live instruments.
Yeah.
I need a certain lens. He also is a radio DJ and has his own show called The Dream Stream. So music and just has an ear. And I enjoy the music that I hear on his show. So
Yeah.
I feel like it's 2 years. This whole Museum of my Art project has been like a 2-year project because it started with the music, then became an installation pop-up museum, and it started with all of these things kind of emerging. Because when I first wrote it, I was just in a space of heartbreak. I'm just like, I have a broken heart right now, and I need to go somewhere with it. So
Sure.
that's writing. Actually, I started with the music, so I did the music first, and I wrote the song.
Oh, okay.
And I worked with Mark, who then brought the songs to life because he played live instruments on it. And
Yeah.
then he, even added more layers. And then that's where it is right now. So
Amazing. Yeah, I can't wait. Thank you for the sneak preview of that album. Oh, let me hear it. Awesome. So yeah, super, super excited to hear it in completion. Before we go into some final fun, lighthearted questions, I also wanted to give you an opportunity to shout out your story in the Heavy Music Mothers book. I thought that was really cool too. Do you mind just giving us a quick shout on that and telling us what it's about? I thought it was really cool. So
thank you. Yeah. I well, first of all, I thought the concept was awesome. So yeah, the fact that they were writing the book, and it's two super freaking incredible librarians, rock and roll librarians, like heavy music librarians, was just blew me away. So I don't remember if it was during, again, for me, time moves differently. So
yeah.
I don't remember COVID that I met with Julie. I know we have seen each other in art spaces and have spent time together in different spaces beforehand. But when I actually did the interview, I remember, I think we did it over Zoom.
Okay.
I feel like window of time, the COVID blurry time. But I got a chance to meet with her, and we just talked like life, talked like some of my early music memories of just being. So love, I mean, for my son, like one of his first concerts was Kiss,
Oh, crazy.
Crazy is we went to see Kiss and he went to see Immortal Technique, like all in the same.
What a great mix. Different sides of the spectrum. So cool though. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just funny because a lover of music finds me in a lot of different.
That's right.
Finds me in different spaces, and I love the theatricalness of certain performers. I loved MF. Love, you know what I'm saying? Like I love when people build out a persona. You know what I'm saying? And that persona becomes this whole thing. So Wu-Tang Clan, right? Like just it becomes this whole universe that you enter
Alter
into.
ego. Yeah.
So Julie and I got a chance to talk about, just that side of my world, like Metallica and, Kiss. And, I went through a whole phase. Can't really say a phase because I still listen to it, but I haven't attended any concerts in a long time. But I used to do symphonic metal, to see a lot of symphonic metal bands. And so I got a chance to talk about all these like things that people just don't know about me, whether symphonic metal bands, the punk stuff, like it's just if you know me from one specific area of life, then that's what you know. So there are certain people that just know me from the art world and don't even know I have a whole hip hop life. And there are certain people that know me from hip hop that don't know that I have, you know, an art or rock life or anything else. So it's kind of just like, I love that when it's like people will see me in different spaces and be like, what are you doing here? And I'm like, what do you mean? I'm a season ticket holder. I'm lying, but it's just the kind, you know, it's that kind of thing where it's just, so here's a funny story. So growing up, I was a huge fan of wrestling.
Oh,
So I went to underground wrestling events, right? So I ended up at, I don't even remember what it was. Maybe it was like a TNA Impact event.
oh, nice.
I end up there. Who do I see there? Poison Pen.
Oh my God. That's awesome.
Like, you know, so every now and again, like I'll just, if I run into him in the street or whatever, we'll have a moment talking about running into each other. And he's a fan too, you know, so
Yeah.
he was there. And then I just ran on my own accord and we're there watching, you know, I feel like it was TNA Impact in Webster Hall, which is like a venue, you know, out here of all places, because it's not like a huge, but it was a whole. So anyway, it's random like that where I just, you know, my interests take me in a lot of different places.
Sure.
And there's different music that fuels all those different places. And for me, there's something that's beautiful about that, about being in community with different, you know, in different spaces and yeah, just vibing to all of it. So
yeah. And that's why I love doing these interviews, just finding out like different hats that people wear and just different things that they're into. So this is great. I had no idea. All right. Favorite WWF wrestler of all time. Who you got?
oh God. See, it's interesting because dare I say, and come for me, people, don't come for me, people. Randy Savage.
Yeah, he was cool though. He was absolutely super cool. The Macho Man. That's awesome. I love that story about you. Hey, with that, thank you. I always close these interviews out with silly questions, so you got to bear with me. And so we'll do that real quick. But it was awesome going into a big deep dive into your music and art. I really enjoyed it. And I can't wait to share it. But let's close this interview out with some fun questions. Scientifically, we know the answer to this question, but do you personally consider tomato to be a fruit or vegetable?
Well, I know it's a fruit. However, however, I still don't see it as a fruit. I see it as a vegetable.
Good answer. Same. All right, I saw this. This is pretty silly. I saw this online the other day. They said you can consider cereal to be a soup. That makes sense?
Cereal as a soup?
This seems weird, but
No. Because, well, not in my book, because I don't like gazpachos, which are cold soups. So I'm gonna take it from a soup nerd, which I am. Like I love soup. So when people tell me they have gazpacho, I'm like, no. So I would put cereal in the gazpacho cold soup. No.
good answer. All right. Does Helixx believe in aliens?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. I think so. All right. Here's my next silly question for you. All right. Would a dog wear pants over all four legs or just the two back legs?
If a dog had its own decision, then it would probably only wear it if its owner had some treats.
That's fair. All right. New York is home of probably some of the best pizza in the world. Are pineapples okay on pizza from a New Yorker's perspective?
So, as a lover of pineapples, I know everyone. Well, first of all, I should also say I have Italian in my family, and everyone would probably curse me out after this. Eat it anyway, but I still do it anyway. So I will say yes, but again, I have parts of my family that will probably not even let me in for meals.
Yeah, I love pineapple on pizza. Hey, so with that, hey, thank you so much again. Just amazing. I've been a fan since day one. I think everything you do is amazing. You have a catalog of music that has stood the test of time, and just the lyrics tell you're always on another level. And so I appreciate people that put that much time into their work. And I love you just pushing the envelope and always experimenting and just trying new things. And I'm super excited for them to hear the Museum of My Heart soundtrack, because that's another side that no one has ever seen. And I'm excited for you to flex that piece. But with that, it was a super honor to do this interview, and I appreciate your time. Are there any special projects you want to tell folks about, or any final words you want to say before we close this thing out?
I just want to say thank you to everyone. I want to say thank you to you. This is a gratitude moment for me. I just appreciate the opportunity to come and connect. I'm very much a reclusive kind of person. Recluse, but you know. So I appreciate being able to just, time travel a bit, because that's what we did today. And I realized I need to go back and brush up on my own history.
That was fun.
30 years, it's 30 years is a long time. And but it's nice to be reminded of different moments in time that were very important.
Yeah.
They were important to me as well. So now I just realize I have to go back and read some of my old diaries to also relive those moments,
Yeah.
because that's connected to not only to yourself, but also to the world, and to the world in which you were and the world in which you are. So
Yeah.
thank you to your listeners and your viewers. And you're also an amazing MC artist. So I just even inviting me into this space to chat.
Yeah, thank you. Well, good. I can't wait to share it. So thank you. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I can't wait to get it out.
Thank you.